Great. Well, good afternoon if you're on the East Coast, everybody. And if you are farther west or farther east, good, whatever time of the day it is for you, wherever you happen to be. Um, my name is Dave Hitt, and you should be able to see my picture, and I don't think you can, which means that I'm not in the right version of presentation mode. Hold on just a moment. Mhm. All right, so let's get started. My name is Dave. Some of you folks know me. I see a couple familiar faces out there. I own a small marketing agency focused on digital and website development. The name of our company is Flat, and we are in Philadelphia and have been around since 2001, 24 years young, more or less this month. Um, I dropped a lot of contact information on this slide and on the thank you slide. Just a couple of notes. I have a moderator on hand in this call. The fellow by the name of Tony Kanak is a colleague of mine. He serves as my sales and business coach, and he runs a company called Sales Evolution. And if you folks are in need of business coaching and sales training, Tony's the man. I've worked with him for 3 years, at least, and he's volunteered to help me out today. So, what are we going to be talking about today? By way of full disclosure, the title of this webinar, which is 86 the Agency, poses the question as to whether the advent of increasingly powerful AI tools are enabling in-house marketing teams to a degree such that they could actually make the marketing agency obsolete. It's a pretty hyperbolic theory, and I think you could probably guess that the answer, 33 screens down the road, is a little more complicated than yes or no. I wanted a provocative name, frankly, so that we could put some urgency behind the inquiry we're about to do, which is to take a look at the state of AI tools in marketing today and question whether the tools themselves are up to the task of ultimately replacing some roles within the traditional marketing agency or empowering in-house staff. But also, I wanted to take a look at industry adoption. It's one thing to discover that the tool set is mature enough to really amplify the capacity of in-house teams. But if industries in question aren't asking for those tools, aren't aware of those tools, and aren't requiring those tools of their employees, really doesn't matter whether or not the engines of advancement exist and are running on all cylinders. So those are sort of dual questions that we're going to explore in the next few slides. This is obviously a topical discussion for a lot of reasons, most of which I suspect I don't really need to explain to the folks who are attending. Presumably, most of us are in marketing or marketing adjacent businesses. It's impossible to read any piece of not just industry press, but just layman's press. It's impossible to read the New York Times without reading about AI. It's impossible to read, TikTok influencers are talking about it. Virtually everybody makes reference to AI and the way it's revolutionizing all sectors of all industries. Right now in marketing, there's a tsunami of tools being marketed directly to in-house teams. New tools are released every day. We're being flooded with tools, and all of these tools and all of these options leaves us wondering, which really have value, which are fully market ready, We're all familiar with unfortunate use case experiences where we purchase tools that really aren't ready for actual real world use yet. Additionally, these tools are incredibly well funded by Silicon Valley and Wall Street. So, there are multiple reasons why we're all being pummeled. One is the maturity of the technology, but it's, anything AI has become a darling of angel investors and Silicon Valley and Wall Street. When a phenomenon like this takes off and develops so much hyperbole surrounding it, it also raises the expectations within C-suites and the hierarchy of managers that a CMO exists within. So people are under pressure. Their awarenesses are raised. This is the hot, sweaty summer of AI. And then finally, from the agency standpoint, this is not new to all of us who've worked in the agency world. We're constantly having to redefine our value, and AI is just the advent of AI tools is just yet another instance where we are having to redefine our value. Before we look at tools, I wanted to circle back to this question I alluded to earlier. When I decided to give this presentation about 5 weeks ago, I was ready to dig into the tools in play. And I thought that the best way to maybe discover what tools were in play would be to do a large-scale scraping of job listings in marketing. So what I did was I scraped 5,000 job listings and in various marketing sectors with an end towards looking for markers within industries that required some sort of AI skill or AI knowledge. So the analysis that I did was, trying to understand the at a granular level, the demand that exists for AI tools, especially in the sorts of marketing that my agency does, which is professional services marketing and architecture, engineering, and construction marketing, excuse me. So we looked at 3 major sectors of professional services, those being financial services and accounting, legal marketing, and AEC, architecture, engineering, and construction. I wanted to test the theory that adoption rates might vary markedly across industry verticals. And so I included a control group. And just as an aside, this is a random outburst from me. I should have said this at the beginning of the presentation. If you have questions, drop them in chat. Tony, my moderator, will surface those questions later, and I'll be glad to answer them. So we have 4 industries, and we surveyed 2,500 job listings in tech and software as a service marketing jobs, 1,000 listings in architecture, engineering, construction, and real estate, 1,000 listings in financial services and accounting, and then 525 listings in legal marketing. And the reason that last set is a little bit smaller than the others is, frankly, it's a smaller industry as a segment, so I couldn't find as many job listings. For the most part, we were looking at entry to mid-level positions. I was assuming that 55-year-old C-suite job applicants were less likely to be asked to have sort of facility with the tool sets themselves. The job platforms that I looked at were LinkedIn and Built-in. Built-in is where we pulled the tech jobs from. It's a jobs platform that's oftentimes used by technical marketers and SaaS marketers. And we'll talk about some of the additional criteria in just a bit. So here is the aggregated results of the scrapes that I did, which was fascinating, frankly. These are bar charts, which show in orange the total volume of listings that we surveyed, and then in red, that percentage of listings that required or asked for any sort of AI proficiency. So this is any sort. This is not tool specific. This can be just an oblique reference to proficiency in artificial intelligence. Breaking those numbers down in terms of numbers rather than size on a bar chart, you can see that general AI proficiency was by far and away the largest asked for reference. And then when we start looking at individual tools, most of the tools that were asked for were the big boy LLM platforms that most of us have heard of and read about every day. ChatGPT being the largest, Claude being right behind ChatGPT, but considerably lagging. Microsoft's Copilot AI tool. And then the first marketing specific tool that is role specific rather than sort of a ubiquitous kind of you can do anything with it tool, which is Canva. Below that, the only other tool that shows up that specifically had more than one mention that is marketing related is Grammarly. So what can be drawn from this? The data is telling us essentially that despite all the hype, the incidence of AI as a requirement in professional service marketing and AEC marketing, at least, is actually pretty damn underwhelming. Even including general mentions, industries such as AEC are only mentioning AI 5% of the time in job listings that I surveyed, at least. Far and away, we saw that the level of adoption in tech marketing was considerably higher. We're talking 78% to 21% in legal, which was the second highest. We will, Rob. Saw that chat come across the board. So this data was interesting because it tells us how a low level of adoption means that even if we conclude that these tools are awesome and can, supercharge a marketing department, if people aren't actually requiring these tools, it's up to the employees themselves to pick them up, right? I mean, if they're not being asked in a job interview how proficient they are in whatever, Jasper or some other marketing related AI platform, it's all irrelevant. That informs the next part of the presentation. We're going to talk about the tools themselves. This is not going to be an exercise in learning how to use Canva or learning how to use CopyAI or learning how to use any of the role-specific tools in marketing. We're going to identify tool sets. We're going to sort of extrapolate at a high level what proficiencies they offer and what their strengths and weaknesses are. Because of length and brevity concerns, I didn't even look at all the different roles one could presumably find within a marketing workflow for which AI tools exist. So I identified 5, 6, or 7 right off the block. There are design tools, obviously. There are writing tools. There are research and strategy tools. There are email and automation tools that are AI fueled. And then there's just a preponderance of more technical digital marketing, paid media, and organic search tools, SEO tools, GEO tools, AIO tools, AEO tools, PPC tools, an alphabet soup of products that we could have looked at, but we're not going to do anything other than perhaps mention in a slide. So we're going to go through those first 3 categories over the next few minutes. I like introducing topical segments of presentations with some of my favorite quotes. I don't know how familiar people are with the history of the web in this century, but one of the earliest proponents and standard bearers for the adoption of web standards is a fellow by the name of Jeffrey Zeldman. He started and developed one of the largest web studios in the country. Don't worry about people stealing your design work. Worry about the day they stop. So our next section is going to talk about design specifically. Excuse me while my browser befuddles me. And we're going to start with Canva Pro. And Canva earned the right to be discussed in this presentation specifically because they were by far and away the most role-specific tool asked for in some of in the job listings that I surveyed. Canva's Magic Studio launched in late 2023, integrates AI-powered tools, Magic, Write, Design, Edit, Eraser, Switch, Animate, Morph, Media, etc., directly into its platform. The promise, the theoretical promise, is that Canva puts agency-grade creative capabilities into the hands of in-house teams, enabling them to bypass traditional design workflows. Now, as an aside, you can judge to a degree the actual real-world usefulness of Canva with the following information. I had never used it until 2 days ago. Members of my team have used it, but our studio has been tethered to Figma for the production of most graphic work for a long time. Figma is still an excellent tool, but Figma is the nuclear bomb to the very sort of specialized tool that Canva represents. I was able to use many of the capabilities of Canva. I was able to identify them, learn them, and deploy them in the use of the design of this deck, and we'll talk about that shortly. For recovering Adobe victim, Canva is a breath of fresh air. Hear, hear. So Canva is very interesting to me because a lot of these products that are on the market right now have not holistically thought about building AI into a pre-existing product in anything other than a very sort of blunt force kind of way. Canva has intentionally tried to sprinkle AI to extend and simplify and make much faster certain aspects of design workflows. Canva can be used for a variety of different creative assets. It can be used for web layouts. More typically, I think it's used for social and paid advertising layouts. It is endeavoring to create an environment whereby design and copywriting can take place in the same tool. I think it has correctly identified that there are a lot of people working in marketing and advertising these days who, if their task was social, their responsibilities actually kind of straddle both design and writing. So Canva builds all of these tools into its workflow and its interface. And I was going to just quickly toggle. Again, this isn't a tutorial, but it's important, I think, that we get the opportunity to sort of see what these products actually look like. So this is the working view, for instance, of Canva. I just need to find the right tab here so that I just bear with me for a second. This is a twin of the presentation itself, so I'm easily confused. So if you look at the interface for Canva, you'll see that essentially it breaks the workflow that one is likely to deploy for creative into different components. One thing that's really great about Canva is it allows you to create brand kits. So I very quickly made a brand kit, for instance, and this has all of our typography specs and typical use cases for how we deploy type across a variety of different types of collateral environments. So this is, a headline is just, you'll see it just slaps on a headline onto whatever is there. Subtitles, heading, colors. It allows you to store multiple color palettes. So in this case, in this presentation, for instance, I tend to use an off-brand, an alternate brand palette for my presentations, which leans towards orange and blue. You'll see that I can program all of those components into a presentation that I'm doing. Now, in terms of the AI, I think probably there are a couple of particularly powerful implementations of AI in Canva. We're not going to look at all of them, and frankly, full disclosure, I personally find a huge annoyance with all of these emerging tools, which is a tendency to radically overhaul the user interface on the fly. So if you were using the product last week, your pre-existing knowledge has quickly becomes outdated. These tools, for instance, Design Right, Edit, and Eraser, are now integrated in ways that they weren't a year ago, which is useful if you're just learning the tool, but annoying if you learned the tool a year ago. But just to demonstrate, just a quick capability, the look and feel of this presentation was generated by Canva. I mean, I was really trying to, get to understand the tool set a little bit better. So I began, one of the cool things that it allows you to do is it allows you to sort of ideate visual looks and feel by sort of developing sample templates. So I am going to ask it to develop pitch deck with geometry. I'll just say modern. And you can see on the left here, it's thinking. And it will eventually think, and produce different ideas. And if I click on one of these ideas, these are all invented for me on the fly. Now, the fun thing I can do too, that I thought was fun at least, is I can now apply my brand kit to it. So what looked one way first time I did it looks much more branded and in line with what a presentation from us would typically look like. Like any AI tool, the success or failure of your ability to use it boils down to how well you can prompt it. Most of these tools are leveraging platform information from only one of 2 or 3 different places. ChatGPT actually serves as the backbone for a variety of different tools. I can't remember if Figma uses ChatGPT or if it uses I think it's ChatGPT. So what you're getting in a lot of these tools is very specialized flavor that derives from a pre-existing large-scale LLM like ChatGPT. I'm going to switch back to our deck now. One of the things I hope will prove useful for attendees is if you contact me in any one of the different channels that I put on both the front and the back presentation slide. I'll give you all of this information. I did collect learning resources for the 2 tools that we talk about in greatest detail, which are Canva and Copilot AI. So feel free to ask me for that. There's a tremendous amount of learning information and resources that out there, and I've identified and curated some for you. Now I wanted to sort of spend just 3 or 4 minutes kvetching or sharing industry experience from the perspective of a small agency principal. Canva is powerful. There's tons of things you can do with it. But in the hands of someone with no design training, the only thing it empowers is its users' ignorance. If you're asking employees without formal design training to use it, might I suggest some fundamental design training? And this comes from a place of snark, and observation. We've historically we obviously we have a small shop ourselves of 5 or 6 very well-trained people, and we work with clients, many of whom have in-house personnel. And a very common thing that I found is people with very little design training are asked to do all the social posts and social media management, for instance. That might be one of their tasks for a larger professional services entity. And in the absence of knowing what good design looks like, regardless of how good the facility is of the user with a given tool, their work still looks really kludgy sometimes. That's been my experience. So I thought it might be useful, in addition to the training resources that I just gave everyone, to think about recommending for your in-house staff, if you happen to be in a position of managing in-house staff, that maybe, before you sort of buy Canva Pro and have somebody do lots of, courseware on Canva Pro, you actually require that they do a little bit of courseware on design fundamentals, and coming to the tool with some level of knowledge and discernment will vastly improve the results that you get from the tools that you choose. Okay. Good writing is not a natural gift. You have to learn to write well. That's from David Ogilvy, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Who cares about it? Writing tools abound like everything else in the universe today. There are a variety of specialized writing tools. Probably the most robust is a tool called CopyAI. CopyAI launched in 2020 and is continuously evolving. It offers AI-powered writing tools built to generate short-form marketing copy, think headlines, CTAs, emails, social posts, product descriptions at scale. So it gives in-house marketers fast, on-brand language without waiting on agencies or staring down a blank page, making copy generation feel more like clicking generate than writing from scratch. So CopyAI is both simultaneously specialized and robust. It's specialized because it is designed to easily assist writers and editors produce the sorts of recurring work, project-oriented work that marketing writers are typically tasked to do. So you can get it to write, it can assist in everything from a diversity of tasks, including email subject lines, emails themselves, emails for cold outreach, emails that are part of a cadence of HubSpot produced emails for people that are somewhere in the marketing funnel, long form blog posts, you name it. If you've done it as a writer, there is capability that is intended to assist you in those very specialized tasks in CopyAI. Theoretically, the promise is that it turns internal marketers into faster, more confident communicators without waiting for an agency to operate or blocking on creativity. Why do in-house marketers like it? It removes the friction of starting from scratch, the writer's block phenomena. That's pretty insignificant, but I suppose some people value it for that. It generates usable first drafts in seconds. It's fast enough for campaign copy, smart enough for client work. It's especially helpful for teams without a full-time writer. It has a template library built around proven writing formulas, such as AIDA, PAS. These are the sort of traditional steps that writers often take to craft their formulas for writing compelling marketing material based on circumstance. It will give you multiple outputs, multiple versions. It will create content flows, which can be repeated and passed off to individuals. It learns as you train it in a brand voice. It will learn based on the training that you've given it. And it allows for team collaboration. It's great. It's great. It's well known. This statement, what it's best at, this bullet point should say, this bullet should say what it's well known for. It's well known for generating short form marketing copy, ads, emails, product blurbs, brainstorming alternatives for CTAs, headlines, subject lines, rapid fire ideations for social posts and content snippets, and rewriting existing content for social posts for different tones or audiences. And it integrates into the vast go-to-market AI ecosystem of marketing and sales AI-powered tools. At this point in the presentation, I think I'm going to turn on chat. CopyAI is unique because it was purchased by an organization whose aims are much broader than producing just a copywriting tool for marketing writers. It actually exists within an ecosystem of AI-fueled capability that is expansive in its aims. Copy AI can be used as part of GTM's what they call workflows, and a workflow involves can start with audience and prospect identification and research, and end at writing. So if, for instance, I am developing a marketing outreach campaign, Copy AI has the capacity within the GTM ecosystem to go out to a lead source database like Apollo or LinkedIn and find individuals that correspond to an ideal customer profile. It will scan job, bios and profiles within LinkedIn, and it will identify for you marketing tactics that it thinks are most likely to work on the audience you're seeking based on the product you're selling or the service that you're selling. It will then it will suggest collateral types. So it'll suggest that you try cold outreach with this type of audience, or these guys should be approached via LinkedIn for connection requests, and it'll suggest that you create cadences of LinkedIn correspondence, and then once it gets down to the level of having identified creative and created project briefs essentially for each type of creative that it's capable of producing, it'll help you write it. And when it was released in 2020, it was this smaller tool, this more role-specific tool, but it is now part of the GTM ecosystem, and it's intended to achieve much more ambitious aims. I would recommend that if you're interested in Copy AI, it is worth looking at some of these videos. I watched the Workflows 101 video. I thought about making you folks watch it because it's only 5 minutes long, but not sure. I think videos put people to sleep immediately. So product videos from some CEO in a white shirt, not typically what people want to sit around and watch in a webinar. But I do recommend you watch it. He's in a much more sort of articulate way. He was able to define the broad ambitions of the tool and the vast capabilities the GTM ecosystem is capable of accomplishing, both from the standpoint of sales and marketing. So it's integrated for both business development and marketing. Before we move on to another part of the presentation, though, I wanted to share and I wanted to ask the question, well, okay, we've got these dedicated tools. And as we'll mention, Copy AI is just one dedicated tool for writing. There's a million. Phrase, Jasper, the Grammarly tools. There's a ton of them. And you can spend your time collecting specialized tools that accomplish specific tasks. But I have to ask, as somebody that's been using ChatGPT for a while now, can't you build a workflow around ChatGPT that essentially does the same thing? And the answer to that question is definitely yes. And I don't use Copy AI. I don't use Phrase. I used Phrase which is another SEO-specific writing tool. They're good tools. I understand that, but the nature of prompt engineering in LLMs is it's not rocket science. I mean, these tools were designed they're called natural language processing because they are designed to emulate the way we think and speak. And the workflows that we have developed internally revolve around training ChatGPT. Using ChatGPT, you can create all manner of marketing collateral, from short form marketing copy, headlines, CTAs, emails, social blurbs, product descriptions, without any kind of dedicated copywriting tool. And I suspect this is ChatGPT 101. It may be something many of us have learned months ago, but using ChatGPT within the context of a marketing workflow is simply a matter of training it. You give it prompts that start broad and get more specific and more refined. If we were doing a theoretical example, you're a copywriter for a boutique accounting firm launching a new service for freelancers. Write 3 short headlines for a landing page using a warm but professional tone. Option: train a brand voice. I'm going to toggle out for a second. For our own work, I recently created a bunch of content on our own website that was largely, most of the heavy lifting was done by ChatGPT. And what I do typically for our own work or for our own client work is, in order to create a brand persona, I feed ChatGPT a ton of content. So I will feed it content that either us, if we're working for ourselves, I scraped 10 blog posts that were written by me. I scraped all of our service areas that were written by a combination of people over the years. And then I said, take all of this information, and I flavored it according to writers historically whose work I appreciate. And I played with the development of a brand voice until such time as I liked the default responses that I was getting when I asked it to perform a certain writing task. And I just began writing content with it. All of the content that I've written that we recently launched passed AI checkers. I mean, the AI checkers that theoretically are capable of discerning human written content from AI content did not flag any of the content that I wrote. I'll just read some of the brand voice content. Digital marketing that knows when to stop. I like quotes, as you can see. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. In digital marketing, complexity is often confused with competence. Platforms multiply, dashboards multiply, tactics multiply. In agencies, they pile it all on every single time. It's flat, we take a smarter approach. Sophistication doesn't come from adding more. It comes from knowing when to stop, when to focus, and when to refine. Welcome to the era of smart marketing. The era of pick your channel and pray is over. This is all, I produced all of this content, 9 pages worth, in probably 25% of the time that it would have taken. And frankly, oftentimes I end up using ChatGPT because I don't necessarily want to sit around and create a pipeline of people producing work because I want the work done now, because I do most of our marketing. So toggling back here. So using just an iterative process of really straightforward prompts and getting results and refining those results with more specific prompts, you can get great marketing copy. It's when evaluating a tool like CopyAI versus a tool like ChatGPT, the thing about CopyAI that it definitely has is if you're plugging a tool into a large team, CopyAI is built for large team use. We're a small shop. I am capable of sort of living on my own island of ChatGPT. We've thought about using ChatGPT's team functionality. If it comes to that, we will. But essentially, if you're willing to just work with it, you can get ChatGPT or what would I use instead of ChatGPT? I'm not sure I would use Perplexity for the stuff we use it for, and I don't use Claude. But ChatGPT has been great for writing copy for us. So ChatGPT gives you 80 to 90% of a dedicated tool's value if you know how to prompt it well. Scraping, please explain scraping. Scraping, so some of the tools I use, Barbara, allow me to scrape data from web pages. So a scraper, for instance, rather than having to look at 1,000 LinkedIn job listings and copy and paste out data from each one of them, a scraper will allow you to will scrape 1,000 job listings for you and pull data out into fields. Generally speaking, their output ends up taking place in the form of a spreadsheet that with defined values. So you can then sort of spin that data and massage it. Moving on to sort of the end of our presentation, the closing part of our presentation. Advertising people who ignore research are as dangerous as generals who ignore decodes of enemy signals. Do I understand what he meant by that? Did I misquote? Did I miswrite that quote? I'm not sure. Anyway, not important. So research and strategy. This is the section on research and strategy, and the other big LLM that another big LLM that people are using widely, especially for research purposes, is Perplexity. Perplexity launched in 2022 as a generative AI search assistant that delivers real-time answers with cited sources, bridging the gap between search engines and language, bridging the gap between search engines and language models. I'm assuming that the level of proficiency with AI within our group here is such that we've all tinkered around with doing research on one of the LLMs. Perplexity is particularly well suited to the task of research and strategy development in our industry. And that's because it tells you where it's pulling all its citations from. And it will do very curated sorts of searching for you. So, for instance, ChatGPT has a mode called focus mode, which has been renamed to choose source mode. But essentially, you can tell, I'm sorry, not ChatGPT, Perplexity. Perplexity has a mode called focus, which allows you to tell Perplexity to source the answers to the questions and the research that you're performing based on a pillar of different types of knowledge. So you can ask it, for instance, to look only within academia or look only within, legal services. I'm not sure if that's one of the parameters, if that's one of the sort of corrals that you have access to, but academia is Reddit. It sources data from Reddit. So if you just want to find answers from within the Reddit database, it'll do that for you. So Perplexity is loved or liked or tolerated because it feels like ChatGPT, but it gives real sources. It replaces hours of Google searches, tab hopping, and second guessing. It's widely praised for trustworthy, explainable AI outputs. Cited responses allow you to sort of check its thinking, check the validity of the research that it's offering up. Like as I mentioned before, it has different modes that allow you to sort of curate your search and your research in different fields of knowledge, if you will. Perplexity is what's called a hybrid LLM. It uses something called RAG technology, which is retrieval augmentation generation, along with a backbone LLM. That gobbledygook that I just spit out means that it does real-time search as part of its research, but it's thinking from an LLM, and it's processing from an LLM. So Perplexity is essentially web search overlaid on top of ChatGPT. It actually uses ChatGPT as its core LLM engine. So how would you use Perplexity? Here's a case study. Perform a competitive positioning scan for a marketing strategy presentation. No analyst, no agency deck. Step-by-step workflow. Ask a specific outcome-focused question. So your prompt might be, what are the top 5 CRM platforms used by mid-sized law firms in the US, and how do they market their product differently? You could switch to choose sources mode for more curated results. As I mentioned before, this will give you curated answers taken from specific spheres of knowledge, like academic writing. It gives you summaries plus links. You can explore the citations that it gives you, so the references that it gives you, you can drill down into those. After it's performed a prompt from you, it wants to do follow-up research for you by default. We can look at this in a second. Its entire sort of focus and orientation is towards the conduct of increasingly deeper research. So it's really good for both research and strategy development. It gives solo marketers or lean teams the ability to real-time source research fast. It replaces hours of Googling and guesswork with a workflow that's grounded, citable, and actually usable. Do yourselves a favor, rather, we're kind of short on time. Just go to perplexity.ai in your browser if you're watching this now, and you'll see it's a search engine basically. And it has, like ChatGPT, paid versions and free versions. The paid version is $20 a month. And it really offers kind of a different experience than ChatGPT. And I started using it a while back and appreciate the differences that it gives me. ChatGPT and Perplexity have similar deep research modes, which essentially in both ChatGPT and Perplexity, you can say, I don't want you to scan far and wide. I want you to scan lean and deep. I'm going to give you a question, and I'm going to put you into research mode, and both tools will then say, give me 8 minutes or 10 minutes. Go grab a cup of coffee. When you come back, I will have a deeply sourced long-form answer to your question. There's a whole bunch of resources here that I put for learning Perplexity. Again, if you want the deck, be glad to pass those along to you. I'm not going to look at that. Always a bridesmaid, never a bride. This is the section where I do talk about other tools. A bunch of tools you will find have fan followings. I wanted the honorable mentions to include tools that I know are really good, that have very specific applications within marketing and that have very strong fan followings. So this slide highlights a set of AI-powered marketing tools that have developed strong reputations among professionals. While they're not, they may not be the role-specific headliners in our main presentation, each offers serious value in key areas of marketing execution. They've earned their followings through practical, consistent performance. Some of those include Grammarly, Script, which is an audio-video editor, Lately, which is a social content repurposer. So social content repurposing is when you want to take something from a blog and you want to repurpose it or atomize it into social posts or podcast content. Ad Creative is specifically for the creation of copy for paid media ad designs, social, Google, blah, blah, blah. And then I mentioned Phrase before, which is a writing tool specifically oriented towards content marketers and SEO professionals. So sort of finishing up here. In-house marketing teams get stronger as a result of all of these tools, but not necessarily fully self-sufficient. Tools like Canva, Copy, Perplexity, and others are making it possible for lean internal teams to produce more creative content faster and cheaper, repurpose and adapt marketing assets across formats, get market insights and draft strategy inputs without hiring an analyst, automate and scale routine execution, email, social, content snippets. But here's the catch. Many in-house marketers still lack formal training in core disciplines like design, copywriting, and analytics. Without that, AI simply accelerates mediocrity. So my recommendations are start hiring and training for tool fluency, but pair it with foundational skills in writing and design, messaging, data literacy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Agencies aren't fading, but they're becoming strategic specialists. So smart organizations aren't going to be asking themselves, do we still need an agency? They're instead going to ask themselves, where do we need outside expertise and where can we scale up internally? In-house teams can handle more execution than ever with these tools, but agencies still have still have value and irreplaceable expertise in things like that require high-level skill sets, internal skill sets like programmatic dashboard knowledge, PPC, Google dashboard knowledge for PPC, any sort of paid media, technical SEO tools like SEMrush, Ahrefs. Anything related to those activities are oftentimes probably best left to an agency. Web development, obviously, anything that involves software coding and advanced. I mentioned that. Sorry. And then finally, I think agencies are still very useful when you're doing an entire go-to-market product brand launch, when you're doing a full website redesign, when you're doing a major market repositioning, any of the sort of big picture strategic services that require a melding of both strategy, research, and deep industry experience are probably still best left to agencies. So that's it. I hope I, answered the questions that I suggested this webinar would be touching on. And I'm just going to scan. Oops, sorry, putting my head on the right side of the screen again, Tony. I'm going to scan the questions here.
There's one at the bottom from Alexandra, who's she's a proponent of one of the tools, Perplexity.
Personally, I use Perplexity for everything, research and drafting of text. I only go to ChatGPT in the second instance if I want to get a different version or perspective. That's awesome. I mean, I think this is a matter of like which tool you adopted first, perhaps, maybe not in your case, but I'm increasingly using Perplexity. I can completely understand why you would prefer it. I think it seems to guide the search process more intelligently. ChatGPT just sort of leaves you out on your own. Perplexity is able to intuit sort of intention behind the search a little bit better than ChatGPT, and that's great to hear. One thing brands need agencies for is impartiality. A brand can get too close to its products and services and look at them with rose-colored glasses. Absolutely. I mean, I think that rationale is frequently why agencies and frankly consultants in general are hired, because it's good to get that outside perspective from an entity that's not living and breathing the product or brand daily. So I was on ChatGPT from the start of November 22nd, 2022, and Perplexity came out citing its sources. I jumped on it and haven't looked back since. That's awesome. So if anybody wants to talk further, just reach out to me. I'm glad to, set 15 to 30 minutes aside to chat about whatever it is that's troubling you, or whatever it is you're trying to learn, or whatever challenges you may have and are trying to solve as it relates to marketing and AI. And of course, I do own an agency. We are, like everyone else, deeply immersed in changing our workflows and the way we practice marketing as a result of all of these tools. It's both fascinating and terrifying. All right. So if nobody else has any other questions, I'm just going to shut down, and I thank you all so much for dropping in. I'm probably going to be giving these on about a once every 5-week stint. I suspect that I'm going to revisit a topic I delved into about 10 days ago in an in-person event, which is likely to focus on agentic search. So search in the era of artificial intelligence, how to get businesses found using tools like Perplexity, ChatGPT, and Gemini. Thanks again.